Bridges, with your host, Doni Miller, connecting our community with information about issues and opportunities.
Good Sunday morning and welcome to Bridges. My name is Doni and I'm so glad to have you with us today. You know, pastors and the gay community around the country are engaged in some fairly heated discussion about President Obama's recent announcement that he supports gay marriage. What's the conversation going on here locally? Well, we're about to find out this morning when we're talking about two guys right in the thick of things. They know exactly what's going on in these communities, and we're really happy to have them. I'd like to introduce you to Senior Pastor Lee Williams from Searchlight Church. Lee's not been with us before, and we are so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Doni.
Many people know you from your long-term stint as president of the NAACP many years ago, and also your numerous community activities. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. And our friend, Luis Escobar, has been here a few times. We're always happy to see him. As you know, Luis was a former city council president and very active. He reminds me, that he is an advocate, not an activist in the gay community. We are so glad to have you here with us as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, here's the seminal question. Has the president's announcement that he supports gay marriage really hurt him or helped him? Luis?
Initially, when I heard that he had done that, my immediate reaction is, I wonder if this is going to hurt him. Mm-hmm. You know, I tend to look at things first from a much broader perspective before I go to the various communities that I'm a part of. And then I listen to the news. I listen to, there's a group of us who get together every Tuesday at Don Pablo's for what we call Gay Taco Night. And I talked with all of them, and we have Republicans and Democrats, and we have, people from a variety of different walks in life, and they were kind of split on the issue too. But I think ultimately somebody had proposed that what this was going to do, they think he sincerely supports it. He's not asking for religious institutions to be in support of it. He's saying that this is a civil matter that he's referring to. He says it's been an evolution in the sense that he's gotten to know more and more gay people who have families, who have children, who have raised them, who are deserving of what he says, the same benefits that come from civil marriages, and he's finally come to that conclusion. But some also say it's strategic. They think what he's hoping to do is to annoy, if you will, enough of the extreme right that they will become so centered on this that, and they'll be so loud about it during the election that they will turn off a lot of the more centric people in the United States who then will not take on their positions in any other matter.
They vote for him.
Right.
That's a pretty risky strategy if that's in fact his position, but I'd like to get back to that in just a minute. What's your impression of all of this, Pastor?
Well, I kind of waited to see after the Vice President, made his remarks to see when the President would come forward with his. I'm sure it's something that he's considered for some time. It wasn't something that, a great deal of thought didn't go into. I believe it did. Personally, it's impossible for someone of his stature to have a personal opinion not affect public opinion. Because he's the president, the leader of the free world. So when
do you think it's hurt him? You think it's going to hurt him as he move forward? The support of this particular issue.
In the long run, the jury's sort of out on that, and we'll have to see. I'm definitely an activist, particularly when it comes to voter education and get out the vote. I think we have to look at the whole picture, how it affects our community and the people in it and the things that we care most about. And we're going to have two candidates, and we have to select of those two people who would be the one that would make us feel most safe,
most comfortable. But the reality is, and we might as well just put it on the table, all of us are from two of the most homophobic ethnicities on the planet. I mean, there are The idea of same-sex marriage in the African-American community, while the numbers are better, you know, they're still not great. And in fact, I think I found a little information. Can we put that up, Brian? In 1968, 63% of African Americans opposed same-sex marriage. The numbers are clearly changing, evolving. Right now, in a recent Pew study, we found that 49% are against it and 39% are for it in the African American communities. Take a look at the number in the white community. So there seems to be some evolution toward the support of same-sex marriage, but when you're on the ground, when you're talking to folks in the communities, it's not a favorite subject. It's a pretty. Please,
within the Latino community, I know even myself, when in '97, when I decided to run for city council, and I did not want my being gay to be an issue because I didn't think it was an issue. I announced it at the meeting that we had, and then afterwards, several Latino leaders said to me, "Why did you have to tell them?" Because they all knew. They said, that's just only your business, And I was like, well, if you're going to be out in public, you need to be totally honest. You need to be transparent. And I says, that's why I felt that it was important to tell them. And to this day, I find within the community, still a lot of people, they kind of tell the story about a mother will be asked, we hear that your son is gay, and then it says, well, in Spanish, she'll say, well, that's what people say they are, but, you don't really know, that kind of a thing. So it kind of still skirting the issue,
Yeah, we have wrapped maleness in, tied it to that issue more than any other group. Somehow we've chosen to define our men by who they choose to be in love with, and that's not an issue that other groups have, and it's fundamental. It's a fundamental issue in many churches. And you were a priest for a long time. I don't know that very many people know that, but you were a priest for a long time, and there are biblical passages that people throw at us all the time
and throw is a good word.
That they want to use to support the fact that this is something that churches should not support and therefore not have their congregation support. One of the favorite is Leviticus 18:20, and I think we've got that on the screen. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind, it is an abomination. It goes on to say, if a man also lie with mankind, he lieth with a woman. As he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. So they're Old Testament stuff, but certainly something that churches use quite often in their reasons not to support the president's position. Do you think that still holds true?
Now we're a New Testament church. Now the Old Testament is usually for principle preaching, such as faith, such as forgiveness. It gives the basis, but we have to remember that Christ is the fulfillment of the law, and the law that was written to the selected people, to Israel, was fulfilled by him. We should always be emerging and maturing spiritually. So that's why the evolving thing is going on in the entire church community as far as that issue is concerned.
But you know why this is so critical, this whole conversation is so critical for blacks and Hispanics, is that data shows that we attend church more often than those who are not black and Hispanic. So that tie to the faith actually makes us pretty vulnerable to conversations about this particular issue. I mean, we're more able to be influenced because we are there listening to pastors who in our churches are revered.
But one thing I have noticed when you look at the national scene, you do not find black or Latino ministers or priests on the national stage being what I call just crazy about this issue. You tend to find more white ministers who, like that one guy who goes to not only if he knows of someone gay who's died, but anyone in the military, you don't find that within our communities. Rather, you find within the churches themselves, within the faith communities, where they raise that issue. But I've also seen, like with the whole issue of AIDS, a lot of the ministers here locally, I remember that we were working with them, and they began to open up a little bit more in the sense of understanding that this was an illness and a disease, and that we were not going to focus on how it was transmitted, but rather the care of those individuals within our community. I mean, so there have been steps like that that have come along that I think have begun to open up, the conversation. And for many, I understand how difficult this is, especially the way you've been brought up. Like for myself, I want the benefits of marriage. But for me, it's not so important that it be called marriage. But for others in the gay community, they just insist that it has to have the same name. And I think that's partly because of the way I was raised. And I was raised where the term marriage was referred to between a man and a woman, And if I ever got married, I would not refer to myself as a husband or wife, nor my companion. To me, those are silly words to apply to us, But again, I was born in 1950. So you need to take into consideration the time period that I grew up and what my understanding was. There's some younger people who their experience is totally different. I mean, they've done studies that among evangelical younger people, they are now challenging their parents and their leadership and saying, you get all excited about abortion, you get all excited about gay marriage and gay rights. And yet, if we look at the sacred scriptures, the Gospels, we do not find that Jesus, because they call them red letter evangelicals, because supposedly the red lettering are the actual words of Jesus.
Right, that's right.
And nowhere does Jesus address either one of those issues. He may lay down principles that someone could apply to it,
that is right.
but he does not say anything at all. I mean, and I heard that on the news again last night. And they're beginning to say, we need to be more focused on the poor among the prisoners. When you look at was it the 10 Commandments or is it the Sermon on the Mount when he talks about the Beatitudes? And even as a priest, we never really emphasized the Beatitudes, but yet in my own spiritual growth, I always looked to the Beatitudes much more than I did to the 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments, sure.
So I mean that whole dynamic is going on within the churches, and I do believe that a lot of ministers, because of the people they know, and they know gay and lesbian people who are very good and kind and understanding, and it creates a dilemma for themselves.
Yeah. I want you to hold on to that thought. We need to go away for just a second, but we'll be right back. I want you to hang tight. Join us. We'll return in just a moment.